you approach them in a devotional mood, then they treat you. If you treat them as a Vaishnava, they treat you as a Vaishnava or Vaishnavi. And they're very cordial. And basically, your problems are solved, at least for that particular day. Your bhajan becomes a lot easier. Yes, Prabhu?
We see that when Krishna manifests his pastimes in the material world, they're different to those manifested in the spiritual world. For example, you see asuras appear in Krishna's lila in the material world. So the first thing Maharaj wants to ask was, what are the main differences and why they're there? And we also notice there's a difference in qualification. For example, in the spiritual world, you have to be a Nitya Siddha, but in the pastimes, in this material world...
What are the distinctions? Let's one step at a time. Yes, killing the asuras, that goes on within the material world. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes that in the material world, the relationship with Krishna is basically, or up to Narayana, is basically Gaurava. There are Gaurava, there is Shantarasa, and there's Gaurava Dasya, and there's Gaurava Sakya, max. And there's also Gaurava Shringar, like that. But basically there are 2.5 relationships, and they're all absorbed in awe and veneration. Whereas in the spiritual world, then you'll have Vishrambha Sakya, Vishrambha Dasya, and like that, and Vatsalya and Madhurya. You won't get that in the material world. That's the distinction there. Qualification. In the spiritual world, they're all Nitya Siddha. It didn't matter whether you attained Siddha as Kripa, as Sadhan, or as Nitya. Once you get involved there, then your Siddha means Siddha. You see? So, perfection is perfection. Generally, Sanatana Pada describes in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that a devotee first takes his birth where Krishna is performing his Bhoma Lila in one of the Divya Yugas, one in a day of Brahma. And they are trained up by the eternal, by the Nitya Siddha Kinkaras, servants and maidservants of the Divine Lord. And then after Krishna winds up those pastimes there, then you're promoted with those associates to the spiritual world. Siddha is Siddha. Once you become liberated, you're liberated. You know, like that. So that's distinction. And what else? Anything else that I did not cover?
No, distinction and qualification. We spoke about both.
Distinction we mentioned.
Yeah, and qualification. In regards to the point you made about
qualification, tatraloyam apimuli megam. The one sadhu marganagam, you have to follow in the footsteps. So basically they're following in the footsteps. And Gopi Bhava means the gopis are always talking about Krishna. Their mind is always absorbed in Krishna. It didn't matter what relationship you cherish in the heart. The main thing is gunagana, to chant the glories of the Lord. And if you want it in Vatsalya, then you're absorbed in those pastimes. And if you want it in Shringar, you're absorbed in those pastimes. And if you want it in Sakya, you're absorbed in those pastimes. But the overall approach is gunagana. You're chanting the glories of the Lord in that relationship. That is what strikes the mind. That is the qualification. And you have to attract them. These parshadas are the jury. If they're attracted, you get in with the judge. Because they're going to propitiate the judge, Krishna, to let you in. So that is, when you attract them, these parshadas, then that is a qualification. Then they see your qualification to come in.
how do we acquire that learning of greed?
Associate with those that have it. It's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, that it is eternally situated within the heart, that the relationship with God is there, eternally. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, Sadhya Kaguna, it is never at any time, kabunai, it is never the perfection of practice only. Like an artificial thing, you work hard and you get it. It's not that. Shabanati Shuddha Chitte, when by hearing and chanting the heart becomes purified, Kara Udor, the Son of Love of God, becomes manifested. Pakile se prema bhakti, apake sadhana gati. There are two ways of looking at it. That pakile se prema bhakti, Narottam Das says that when it is ripe, it is manifested as love of God. Apake sadhana khyati is goal. The gati is the goal of your practices, or khyati, it is said that it is unripe. That means if it's unripe, you have to go further. That's all. That simply means I must work harder and go further. I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? And go further. That's all. And when they see the sincerity more and more, ye yata mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham, you'll find that shloka quoted in Ragamarga Sadhana in Sanatana Shiksha from Madhya Lila chapter 22, way past verse 140, when Ragamarga Sadhana is described. That shloka is quoted. So that as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. It goes all the way through in our bhakti line. What else?
Except for knowledge.
Maharaj, on a similar point, when we see Paramahamsa Vaishnavas within the community...
First of all, they're not necessarily walking on the streets of London. So when you see, where do you see? I mean, like, first of all, how do you know? The tendency is that even if one is a prakrit about a neophyte, or one, there's uttam madhyam, kanistha madhyam, and like that, and madhyam, like this. So when you say we see pure devotees, are you seeing by how?
Not sort of my own vision, but if, say, we hear other Vaishnavas saying that...
They're saying that, right. They're saying XYZ is a pure devotee, right. But there are symptoms. The best thing is Rupa Goswami Prabhupada's symptoms that is quoted there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the ultimate goal of life. This is Madhya Lila chapter 23. I think it's shloka number 18 and 19, where it describes that Bhavam Kure, that this is the ankur, this is the sprouting of bhava in the heart. And he gives the symptoms, the external symptoms. And Bhajan Darpana commentary, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is referring to it in the first shloka, that in his commentary there he's referring to it, that is the, Raghunath Das is referring to it as the external symptoms of your internal cultivation. I really like that line. External symptoms of your internal cultivation. So pure devotee means that those symptoms have to be there externally, observable by, according to the Shastra Pramanam, okay? And such devotees are highly absorbed. Now, no one is going to say that I've got there. No one is going to say. Who? Then their authorities, their friends, everybody's saying, he's a pure devotee, she's a pure devotee, whatever it is. What is their criteria for saying it? Everybody else just says it and we just go along with the party? You follow them.
But if they're sort of very elevated personalities themselves and they're making that judgment, would you then trust that judgment?
One can trust the judgment if one likes to. Bottom line is sadhu sangha is always good. Like Shiva was talking to Parvati. When Parvati Devi was extolling her husband to go bless Markandeya Rishi, he said that he's an accomplished sage, absorbed in worshipping of Narayana, and he's Atma Rama, he's self-satisfied, and doesn't require anything from anybody. Neither does he require anything from us either, Shiva said to Parvati. Nonetheless, sadhu sangha is very good, so we should get it. And on that basis, Shiva and Parvati went to see Markandeya Rishi.